started off as a side hustle and then eventually became my career. And it was one of those situations where, it originally was a side hustle to pay off the debt, but then I had built up a career to do it full time. And I was like, this is the most money I've ever made out of any job. And like, I'm pretty sure that I can't go find a nonprofit job or something similar, or even if I can find a similar job, it's not going to pay as much and not give me as much flexibility. So, it's interesting. I had always thought that I wanted to be self-employed, but I just never saw an avenue for that happening. Am I still passionate about? And it's like, well, money and mental health. It's not as exclusive as debt and depression,
Okay.
but it's more expansive with money and mental health, because in my work, writing, speaking, blogging, podcasting, I've just seen these topics again and again and again. And it's clear that your mental health affects the way you approach money. And it's very clear that your financial situation affects your mental health. I've seen it both ways. I realized that the financial trauma of me being on food stamps and being broke and paying off my debt, I overcorrected so hard to pay it all off, to make money, to find this very lucrative writing niche in finance. And then now it's like I've built a quote successful career around it. But then now 8.5 years in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so far away from the person that used to teach theater, that used to do theater workshops with homeless women and kids in elementary school in Harlem. And I miss that part of my life.
Yeah.
And so now I'm kind of like, oh man, now I'm looking out, like zooming back out and being like, that might have been also financial trauma, that I overcorrected so hard to focus solely on the money and the career aspect because I was so desperate for some sense of financial stability, career stability. I think with money and mental health, almost all the time we're doing something in reaction to something, like either in accordance to that thing or in opposite of that thing. And it's like sometimes we have these overcorrections where it's like, oh, like your trauma made you work hard, like this experience, like people are always like, oh, you turned your pain into your passion. And I'm like, yeah, I did. But like now 8.5 years in, I'm wondering, what have I lost in this period? So, I haven't really talked about this publicly like often, but it's definitely like a sore spot for me. But my father lost his job when I was 14 and he didn't really find a job again. And so, I saw my mom work very hard to take care of the family. And I think, as a teenager, seeing the dynamics change, seeing one person no longer able to make money was very triggering for me. And, I just told myself, I don't ever want to rely on someone else for money. And I want to make sure that I'm safe.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I'm okay. Because it's been 7 years, like I can confidently say that paying off debt will absolutely change your life and make it better, but it does not solve all of your problems.
Right.
I mean, I've had plenty of different personal, professional health problems over the past 7 years where it's like, oh, wow, you still have problems. Like being debt free doesn't absolve you from being a human being in this very complicated world. But on the other hand, I will say it is very liberating to have these quote life problems, health problems, relationship problems, what have you, and to be able to throw money at the problem. So I had to like release myself from some of those limiting beliefs that like making money is greedy, making money is dirty, like you can't make a lot of money doing good things or working for yourself. Making money is hard. I had to get rid of some of those thoughts to be able to make more money, because what has happened, especially for graduate schools, we have these things called graduate plus loans, which allow you to borrow up into the cost of attendance. So what does that mean? That means that it's basically a blank check. So schools can charge whatever they want because they know there's a student loan vehicle that can afford it, right? And so if you're wondering why tuition has increased so exponentially, it's because there's a vehicle of debt that can afford it. I mean, can you imagine in any other financial industry, like taking out a mortgage, like taking out a credit card, where someone with no credit history would give you 6 figures in debt?
No. Yeah. No.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
This does not sound like it's a you problem. To me,
No.
this is a systemic failure that there is not easily and affordable, readily available childcare in this country. Like,
so
we do not support women, we do not support families.
No.
And the fact that people often have to choose between, I'm either going to not pay for childcare and at the expense of my career, or I'm going to pay for childcare and it's going to cost me a second mortgage or be, 50 to 75 to 100% or more of my income. And it's like, these options are lose-lose for women and families, and it makes me sick to my stomach. I'm childless, by the way, so I can't personally like share my experience, but it makes me, I get a lot of flack for, being child free because people don't understand it. People want to question me about, this, that, or the other. And, I'm very aware that that's one of those decisions that you can't be like, well, I don't like this. Let me just return this to the store. Like, you can't do that,
Like,
and so it's like, I don't understand why people that like know that about themselves like aren't being congratulated. Like, we're being met with so much criticism. Like, are you sure that's the life you want? Are you sure that's okay? And it's like, aren't you glad that I know that I'm not ready to make a decision, that I know that like if I don't feel this works out for me, that I can't just like go back to the store and return it. Like,
right.